Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. I'm Scott MacKenzie, the first vice president of the St. Andrews Society and ball chair this year, as well as being president of the Montreal Highland Games. And I'd like to welcome you all to the 186th St. Andrews Ball of Montreal. And it's our second virtual ball, unfortunately. We're streaming live from the opulent Forget House tonight, which houses the Macdonald Stewart Foundation, the Burks Foundation, as well as the St. Andrews Society. The house was built for the first Francophone president of the Montreal Stock Exchange, when the Montreal Stock Exchange was the Stock Exchange of Canada, in 1882 to 1884. And his name was Louis-Joseph Forget, so we call it the Forget House. Over the next hour, you'll experience live dancing, live whiskey tasting, live piping, a cooking demonstration, and much more in other fun segments. You'll also hear from Guthrie Stewart, the St. Andrews Society president, and Ian Batchin, the St. Andrews Society's second vice president. Funds raised tonight will be helping out the Douglas Foundation, as well as the good works of the St. Andrews Society. And I wanted to thank all of you tuning in from your homes, as well as the Burgundy Lion, as well as the Mount Royal Club, where we have crowds that basically Guthrie will talk more about the crowds that we have from where. I want to do a quick little shout out to Moira Fernie Barkley, who's tuned in this evening from her residence, and it's her 40th ball that she's attended. She's attended our 2 unballs thus far, this being her 40th. And she was also a past president of the society. So thank you very much for joining, Moira. So without further ado, let the ball begin.
Bonsoir. Good evening, Frisgama. I'm Guthrie Stewart, and I'm the current president of the Montreal St. Andrews Society, and it gives me also great pleasure to welcome you this evening. Now, I must start with a confession. If you joined us last year, you will know that we thought the 2020 edition of the Unball would be a once-in-a-lifetime event, but obviously we were wrong. And then this year, there were some that said we would face a terrible challenge in having an unball. So something called Zoom fatigue. But then we thought about those Scottish settlers, some of our ancestors who set off decades ago, centuries ago, to a faraway land, crammed into tiny ships, sailing for weeks on end, not knowing where they would land, in some cases landing weeks before our wonderful Canadian winter. And we asked ourselves, would those Scots, those ancestors of ours, would they have been dissuaded by this so-called Zoom fatigue? And of course, the answer being obvious, here we are once again, gathered to celebrate and have a wonderful evening together. I would say we could call this maybe even a wonderful testament to our Scottish attributes of being hardy, resilient, I won't mention stubborn, but most importantly for tonight, very community-minded, and of course, gathering to enjoy the company of good friends. As most of you know, the St. Andrews Ball is our flagship event of the season, but I will mention a couple of our other events that we are now eagerly planning in person for early 2022, being our Burn Supper and Kilt Skate. So I encourage you to, if you're not already, to be on our mailing list and check out our website for all of our activities. And I also want to quickly remind you that in addition to our activities like the ball, and very importantly, the promotion of culture, history, all things Scottish, including I should mention the chair, the support for the chair for Scottish Canadian Studies at McGill University, that we are a very community-minded organization, providing outreach support to many, from seniors to students who could use a helping hand. So your interest and support, volunteer or financial, is always very welcome.